If you work with complex data that feeds into really important business decisions, you might find this little video useful. I did a recent webinar on persuasive data storytelling, and the piece that really got the most feedback was the top 3 tips I went through to help people understand how to make your data really memorable for your audience so they do something with it. And I'd like to share that with you here on this video. Just to set the context, the key thing when you share your data insights is that you have to do it in such a way that the other person will remember what you said. Sounds easy, but actually when you unpack what actually happens in the brain, as you move through trying to remember something someone said to you, there are lots of ways that you can easily forget. But you can overcome those little challenges through very careful message design and preparation. So that's what these top 3 things are really aiming for. And just to underline that point, remember, data can seem overwhelming. It takes the latest statistic is it'll take 181 million years for one person to download the entire contents of the internet. Well, clearly we're not going to do that, but we are all swimming, if not drowning, in data in our day-to-day work. And if it's a little bit boring or too standard, however fascinating your insights are, no one's going to pay any attention to your data. You wouldn't normally expect to see a snake like this in a business presentation, but it's meant to be provocative to help your brain work through those processes to retain and capture what you're saying. So let's get quickly onto the 3 tips. Making your data and the insights from it really memorable. First of all, pictures. Think about what your data is trying to convey, and then think of a story and an analogy that might really bring that to life. Here's an example, and yes, that is me on a different day when we were allowed to do that sort of stuff. Showing a very striking image that will appeal to certain audience members, not all, but certain ones. If my data is underlying the fact that we need clear communication or a sense of very strong teaming, or we need to fight the good fight, an image can really make that land with people. It's not just about images. Let's also think about the use of colour. When I say colour, it can mean multicoloured, but actually what works really well, as shown in here, is a subtle shade of whites and greys. You'll notice to start with, my background is all black. Most of the time I use that. It's much more impressive in terms of memorable and impressive on the brain for someone to look at. The brain processes image and colour much faster than text and words. And by using a subtle form of shading through greys and whites and blacks, I can direct my audience's attention to the particular piece of word or particular set of data that I want people to pay attention to. The third element, top tip, is about keeping it simple. Sedulously. When I heard that word first time, I had never heard it before. I had to look it up in a dictionary. Unfortunately, that word was used in a really critical piece of communication. It was done by Boris Johnson on the 17th of March this year, when he announced to the UK that we would enter lockdown, a huge step in our society. The reason I'm mentioning it here is that if you're giving a really key insight about something, then really consider the type of language that your audience will be familiar with. I've been very lucky to go to decent schools and have an education, etc. But I needed to look that word up. So if I need to communicate a message to a wide audience, keep it simple. So top 3 tips. Use images, use analogies for your data insights to convey really quickly and effectively what it is that this data is. People need to know about this data. We're using a lot online and virtually, so use colour in different ways, not just multicoloured, but shading to drive your audience's attention to the right piece of information that you want them to look at. And keep it simple. Make it easy for your audience to understand. Reduce that cognitive load. So where do we end up? 3 top tips to make sure that the insights that you want to share about your important data for those critical business decisions gets across in the best possible way. Good luck.